You might be hearing in the headlines that there are some new rules when it comes to buying and selling real estate. And that is true. There have been a couple of changes nationwide. But what's not true is, unfortunately, a lot of the headlines out there are very misleading, or in fact just giving completely incorrect or false information. So today we wanted to clear it up for you and let you know there really are two changes that have come about due to a recent NAR lawsuit settlement. And we're going to spell those out for you today so that way you know exactly what's fact and what's fiction. So the first change is now there are written agreements required before you can start touring properties. Now, if you're buying a house, which is one of the biggest financial purchases you're ever going to make in your life, you don't want to just run out the door and start looking at houses. This is a process. And actually, the first step in that process should be to sit down and talk with a realtor before you head out and start viewing homes. So I think this change is a good thing. It's going to make us slow down and have that conversation before we just go out and start opening doors. Now, that written agreement can either be two things. One of them is a representation agreement, which is where you are hiring that realtor to represent you through that purchase, or you can also just sign a showing agreement. Those are the two options here in Texas. That means you're just looking at this house for today, no obligation from you to the agent. I think it's a really good thing because it will very clearly spell out from the beginning what that agent is doing for you, what their obligations are to you, and also what your obligations are to them. Now, keep in mind, every realtor has to follow this rule. So no matter who you call, you are going to have to sign something before you go and tour a house. Like I said, not something to freak out about. You have those two options there, but it just means you're going to have to slow down, have that discussion, and get that signed before they can start touring properties with you. The second change has to do with compensation, and this is where I'm seeing a lot of confusion and misinformation out there. The only thing that has changed is, as agents, if we were offering a compensation to a buyer's agent, we used to advertise that within the MLS. That has now been taken out of the MLS. Sellers still have all the same options as they had before. You were not required to pay a buyer's agent to sell your house before. You're not required to now. You could choose to offer that as an incentive, which most sellers have historically chosen to do. You can do that now. You can pay a percentage. You can pay a flat fee. You don't even have to hire a realtor to sell your house. You can do a for sale by owner. All of those options were there before, and they are still there now. The only change is we cannot communicate that amount through the MLS anymore. Agents are now just having to communicate that information to each other directly. That's it. Those are actually the only two changes that were made as a result of this settlement, and unfortunately the media has made it sound like a lot of other things are going to happen. Do we think home prices are going to go down? No. Home prices are driven by supply and demand, so that will always be driven by the market in your area. Do we think that this is bad for consumers? No. I think this just provides a little more clarity and transparency for consumers, which is a good thing. Should you be worried? No. People are still going to buy and sell homes every single day. Everybody needs a place to lay their head at night. Realtors are still here to assist you if you choose to hire representation. Most people choose to hire representation just because this is such a large purchase and they don't know all the ins and outs, so they want a professional helping them. Overall, these changes are a good thing, and if you have any further questions, just reach out to your realtor. They can clarify for you. But like I said, don't believe all the headlines and things you're hearing out there. Those are the only two things that are different than they were before. Everything else is going to keep on going. Real estate market will always be needed because, like I said, people need a place to go home to every day. If you ever have any questions, of course, we are always happy to answer them. Feel free to reach out. And if you're thinking of interviewing an agent, we have a guide for that. And we did another video titled 5 Questions to Ask When Interviewing a Realtor. So feel free to check those out. Hopefully those are helpful for you too.